everyone. So my name's Iris, as you know. I'll be leading this webinar for today. And then moving on to my college app experience. So I applied to 19 colleges. I only applied to Georgetown Early Action. And then I applied everything regular decision. So I think my main tips would be definitely to start early. I think if you want to apply, like many kids want to apply to 20, 25 schools, which I would advise a little bit against, but teach their own. I would definitely say to start early. I started my Common App essay back in June, and then I used most of my summers to write the supplemental essays for colleges. And then when the deadline approached in November or to January, it was mostly to fix up the essays I already had and not to start new essays. So I definitely think my biggest tip, which I think you'll hear a lot, is to start early. And then my second tip is to research the schools. So I knew very early on that I wanted to go to a city school versus kind of a rural school. So my top picks were all city schools. Even Georgetown is pretty located in a very vibrant suburb or kind of like a city. DC is one big city. And then class size. So a lot of liberal arts colleges or private colleges will have a lot of smaller size class sizes. So while public universities will have a much bigger class size usually. So I definitely think that is something worth looking into to see if you're more comfortable with a larger class or a smaller class size. You prefer that lower teacher to student ratio. And then lastly, I would say to research the schools, research the program or your major, because a lot of top ranking schools might not have the specific program that you want or might not have the program that you're looking for. So I definitely think that you should look beyond just the school and also look into the program and the major that you want to apply for. And then I would also say that you should have a safety school that you would actually want to go to. I have many friends that apply to only reach schools or only a safety school that their counselors advised them to apply to, not a safety school that they actually wanted to go to. So if they were left to only go to a safety school, they wouldn't be happy going to that school. So I would definitely say that you might want to have at least one or two safety schools that you wouldn't hate going to. And then that kind of leads into my last piece. Don't only apply to reach schools. I have friends and classmates who only applied to Ivies or only applied to T20s and didn't apply to enough target or safety schools, and then we're left with very few options by April. And I definitely would say not to put yourself in that situation and research schools and have a good number of safety, target, and reach schools.
All right, we got one really great question. I think this question kind of apply to all the students or the parents or the teachers. The question is, how did you take care of your mental health? Well, you were taking so many AP courses and all other activities you were part of. That's a really good question. Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think I struggled with it a little bit, a lot during my high school career. And I definitely haven't perfected it, but for me, it was about kind of deliberately taking time to not do work or not do these activities sometimes, like taking a few hours off on the weekend just to hang out with my family or hang out with friends, I think definitely helped. And then finding hobbies that you genuinely like and not for college, because when you turn it for college, it becomes stressful. So I definitely think having those private hobbies to yourself and having that time to yourself definitely helps help me take care of my mental health when I was doing so many other things at once.
Would you mind to just kind of like briefly go over, when did you plan out your day? And also during the plan out, let's say in the morning, I'm going to finish this paper or finish that research, but due to some other things, you didn't finish. So how did you overcome that, that kind of mental thing, or how to build a good discipline can help organize the things and also organize to-do list?
Yeah, so I would always plan my day out the night before. Like right before I sleep, I would kind of think about what I have to do the next day, kind of write it down. I usually use like Google Calendar to write down everything I have to do. So usually, if I don't have anything pressing in the morning, if I don't have a club meeting, I will sleep in and sleep until like when I have to wake up for school. And usually after school, I will start doing my internships. If I was doing an internship, or I would do my homework and plan out my research, or I would try to set up meetings with my teachers if I needed to. So whatever I needed to do after school, I would always like plan it out beforehand and have it in my calendar. And then I used to swim club a lot. So I would have like 2 hours at night, like 6:30 to 8:30, where I would have swim practice. So I would kind of block that out every day. And then when I would come home, I would kind of take half an hour and de-stress, kind of take a break and breathe, and then go back to studying or whatever I had to do that night. So I definitely think having that routine kind of built that discipline into me over the 4 years.
All right, so I got a question here. Oh, okay. Why did you choose Georgetown University? One question from the audience here, and feel free to talk.
Yeah, so for me, Georgetown was my dream school since sophomore year, and I liked it for a lot of reasons. So first, it was in Washington, D.C. I knew I wanted to study government, and I knew I wanted to study political science. So I knew that for internship opportunities, Washington, D.C. was the place to be. So Georgetown for me had everything I wanted, where it had a campus, but it still had like that city kind of like feel. And it also had like smaller class sizes. They had seminars that were kind of 20 students to one teacher. So it had everything that I was looking for in a school. So I knew that if I wanted to go to any school, it would have been Georgetown.
All right, so next question is, what is your major again? Would you mind to say your major so the audience?
Yeah, so for Georgetown, I am studying government. I know a lot of different colleges call it political science, but Georgetown calls it government. So I will be studying government.
I think it's the best school. When I consider how you apply, was that, wow, that's going to be really competitive. But I didn't say, because I feel like you can do this. I think you made it. Like Georgetown, BC, that's the best place for the political science. That's a really good question. And also, I guess my next question is regarding the political economy. Would you mind to share, because I believe some of this audience, they have never heard about political economy. Would you mind share about like, what is your perspective on that major?
Yeah, so only a few select schools that I applied to had political economy. And my take on it was that I think political economy kind of combines a political interest plus, if you were interested in economics or business, kind of tying together the intersection that politics and economics frequently have, kind of weighing that relationship between politics and its effect on the economy and economy on the effects of politics. So I definitely think it's a great major for people who are more interested in staying on the economy side of politics. Personally, I was more interested in public policy, which is why I chose the government route. But yes, I think that is the key difference between the two.
All right, yeah. So next question is, how have your parents or family been able to support you in high school? Good question.
So my parents have always been very supportive. I know a lot of my friends' families or just families in general have this idea, I want my kid to be a doctor or a lawyer, but I feel like my parents never pushed me to pursue any major, like any path alone. So I definitely think having that freedom to explore those different interests really helped me find that what I want to do. But also I think just in general, my family in general, or my friends even too, have always been very supportive in everything I do. So I definitely think giving children the space to explore their own interests is so important. And for me, it's monumental in what I want to do.
All right. So while we're waiting here, Iris, do you have any advice, for high school students? I know you mentioned a little bit earlier, but I think your activities are not the same as other students. So what kind of advice you would give to the high school student that let them find their own thing, but also not stress them out, but you help them, kind of motivate them to find their own activities? Or what kind of resources, some things that you find kind of useful for you, if you can share a little bit?
Yeah. So one thing I didn't mention before, I definitely think that reaching out to upperclassmen is definitely an option. Kind of seeing their path sometimes inspires you to find your own path. Kind of seeing the activities they did kind of can help you brainstorm what kind of activities you want to do. So I definitely think talking to people who are older than you, if you were younger in high school, definitely can help. And that's something I wish I did too. I think in freshman year, I was so focused on doing my own thing that I could have reached out to upperclassmen and listened to their experiences, not make the same mistakes as them. So I definitely think that is worthwhile.